Good day. Welcome to the Writing, Music and Film Society. My name is Daniel King, and I'm super excited to be here with our awesome guest. She has been a writer for many years, and she's very prolific in what she does. And I would like her to introduce herself right now.
Hi, my name is Roberta Clayton. I majored in English and always enjoyed writing and have a hard time reading books sometimes because how can they be in print with the egregious errors that are out there? The way I do it is a terrific way to get acquainted with people such as Daniel.
Awesome. So what inspired you to start writing, ma'am?
Writing for pay, that was exciting, and I began that when I was living in Holly Springs, and there was a weekly newspaper called The Neighbors of Southwest Wake, and my sons used to roll it and bag it and throw it to all the homes.
Oh.
And so we knew on Wednesday that was their activity with their dad.
Yes.
And as I read that little weekly publication, there was a notice that they wanted to hire someone part-time to write the articles. They were used to seeing me come in because I had been the women's club president, and they thought that I was coming in to announce some activity or something. And I said, no, I'm here to apply for that job. So I was hired as a part-time writer for the newspaper. And really, it was the most pleasant job I'd ever had because a little local paper like that does only good things.
Right.
And so there was a new pastor to interview. Somebody won a scholarship. They were interviewed. Someone was on a TV program. They were interviewed. And at the time, it was film in a camera. So I shot a roll of film every week.
Wow.
And that tells you how long ago it is. Now everything is digital. And
Yes, everything is digital,
so
for sure.
the quality of the photos has improved.
Right.
Anyway, what I do currently is reminiscent of the time I spent doing articles about local friends and neighbors.
How do you come up with your ideas?
Well, as you go about your daily chores, something will catch your eye. There's an article that I did about a home place on Maine, and I ride my bike. So I was always going past this beautiful spread, and it was unique. The only other thing on Maine was all businesses.
Right.
And so the gentleman was out mowing his beautiful yard, and I just stopped and said to him, could I interview you sometime? And he said yes. So eventually we did that piece. And it's kind of an excuse to stop and say, hi, this is who I am. Would you mind letting me get to know you better?
Very neat. And what genre of stories do you enjoy writing?
Well, I was never trained in journalism, but once I started writing for the paper, they smiled at me and they said, you need to add some quotes.
Oh, okay.
So it was just loving the little community that we had landed in and wanting to be involved in more than one way. So we were always doing service projects. The boys in their scouting did their Eagle projects and anything we could do to help our little community grow. And now, of course, Holly Springs is enormous, and we have the same feeling about the growth taking place here in Fuquay-Varina.
That's true.
That we're part of it now.
That is so true. And what books has influenced you throughout the years?
When I saw that question, I was thinking, I visited my friend who lives in a suburb of London, and while there, I always go through her books, and I reread The Little Prince by Saint-Exupéry, and it just brought tears to my eyes. So if you haven't read it, I recommend it. And if you have read it, reading it again is a great idea.
Yes. And guys, we'll put a link to that book below so you guys could go get it. What advice would you give to young aspiring writers?
Oh, I thought about that when I saw that question. I thought, well, I keep the simplest journal, but I've kept it for years.
Yes.
And it's kind of a self-defense because if somebody challenges, no, that didn't happen then, or no, that never happened, I don't know where to find it, but there is a record in writing.
Okay.
So I think journaling is important.
Yes.
For history and also to have a sense of not losing the time that's allotted to you.
That is so true. That time is so important.
Well, it turns out that the people who write things down, even if they never intended to become a historian, they are one.
That's true.
And my mother said the same thing about possessions. She said, someday some historian will thank me because I save things that other people have put in the landfill.
That is so.
The older you get, the more you realize that history is now.
Yes, that is true. That is so true. And sometimes when you write down things, you tend to remember it better than just trying to keep it in your memory. And you said, okay, I'm going to keep this in my memory, but sooner or later you just forget about it.
Well, and the same thing happens with just the details, a shopping list.
Yes.
From 100 years ago would be an interesting thing to anybody.
That is true, yeah.
So the simplest of things. My good friend, Chris, that I mentioned, who lives north of London, she and I, at a certain point, kept in touch when she was in London and I was here in North Carolina by using a fax machine.
Ooh.
And we ended up gathering those faxes and published a little book just for the two of us
Yeah.
to explain what a fax machine is.
Right.
And to reread the things that we wrote to each other, which is better than a journal because it has explanations and encouragement added in.
Oh, that is so great. That's so great. And have you written any books or literature before? We heard about the Suburban magazine.
Yes.
And would you like to show us it a little
Oh,
bit?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. This will be my contact information as well. This is a copy of Suburban Living. This is the Fuquay-Varina edition, but I've also had articles in the Apex edition and in the Holly Springs edition. And these magazines are totally free, for one thing. They're very professionally done, and they give us an opportunity to familiarize newcomers and celebrate those who've been here building up the heritage for such a long time. So I enjoy working with the magazine. The only thing that makes it a little more tense than writing for the little newspaper is that it's quarterly.
Oh.
So
okay.
after you've turned in your work, it may be a long, long time
Right.
until you see it, especially if it's something seasonal.
Right.
And that season hasn't come around again.
Okay, good. Have you any intentions in the future of writing your own magazine or book?
Well, the magazine business involves a lot of selling of a lot of ads.
Right.
That's not my forte, so I wouldn't be publishing a magazine, but a couple of books that I really do need to work on. One, it's time for me to write my own life story.
Right, I think
My
so.
husband has finished his, and it's a beautiful book, and he's
Good.
distributed it. I've kind of used the excuse of not knowing where the photos are when I was a baby. I was a cute little baby.
Yes.
So I hope those will turn up, but meanwhile, I should get started. The other thing was that my husband and I lived in Tonga in the South Pacific for a year and a half, doing missionary work, teaching the financial principles for our church. And while we were there, I read a book that moved me about a young fellow who came by ship. The Tongan Islands were visited by the London Missionary Society, and the people there had no background in the current civilization. So there was a young man who was stranded in the islands after the locals burned down the ship to get their hands on iron.
Oh,
Because their only source was to catch a ship and burn it.
wow.
Anyway, it's a true story about the history of those islands, and I want to rewrite it so that it's available to youngsters because one of the themes of the book is the power of the written word.
Yes.
Of course, they didn't have the written word, and so he did the demo where he put little scribbles on a piece of paper, and then somebody else read it, and they were astonished. They just couldn't believe it. So someday, and that's actually how I got into this organization.
Right.
I met Jill and said there was a book that I was working on. Well, I have a chapter or two, but like so many people, I hope the urge hits me to dig in and finish that up.
That is so fascinating, especially ministering the word to the Tongan people. That's interesting, and teaching
They're
them.
very faithful people.
Yeah,
The other islands, became protectorates of various European nations, and the king in Tonga said, "No, we're not giving our land to any nation. We're giving our land to God."
Wow.
And it's
That's-
part of their national slogan.
Are they Christians?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
very nice. So you guys went down there and you taught them financial literacy.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I would love to interview you on that particular topic because so many people right now need that.
Yeah.
Information.
Right.
And probably one day we could have you back
Oh, that would
talking
be
a
fine.
lot about.
We could talk about financial literacy.
Yeah, I know Dave Ramsey speaks about it a lot, and we have been following him for a number of years since we came to the U.S. And he was like our mentor when it comes to financial literacy. And I didn't realize that you guys talk about it too as well.
Your finances also influence your spiritual life,
It does.
especially if you intend to tithe.
Exactly.
so
And
it's relevant.
it's a topic in the Caribbean where I'm from
Yes.
that people don't talk about ever.
Not acceptable, huh?
Yeah, they don't ever talk about financial literacy. You wouldn't ever hear because people associate money with something negative.
Because it's worldly.
Yeah, and they use scriptures in the Bible to support what they believe. Like the love of money is the root of all evil.
But the money itself is given as a resource, all resources to be used for good and worthy purposes.
That is so true.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm so happy that I came to the US as I would have been lost when it comes to financial literacy and stuff like that. You know, there's so much information that I got here, and on a daily basis, when you tune into the radio, you could hear all this great information. So it's so nice to hear what you're saying, and I'm inspired more now to interview you on that topic. You and your husband probably could come in and talk about it.
Well, I should mention the title of the original book that I'm trying to rewrite for student level eventually. It's called Tonga Islands.
Tonga Islands.
Yeah,
Ooh,
by
sounds exciting.
William Mariner.
Very nice.
And it's a rare book. It's not available.
Wow, that sounds good. That sounds good. So, I am happy to have you on the show. And what I want to do for our viewers here, I want to encourage you guys. Do you have a social media channel that you publish your work and stuff like that?
I saw that the availability of people to get in touch was important, and so I've selected the magazine I work for. And anybody who has an idea for an article they'd like to see in the magazine or a comment on an article that I've written, this issue has one about the tiny house in Fuquay.
Okay, the tiny house.
Interesting. It's a wonderful way to meet wonderful people. So what I'm using for my contact is www.suburbanlivingmag.com, and that will get to me.
Okay, awesome. So we'll put a link on the screen below or in the show notes so you guys could go and check out her magazine, Suburban Living Magazine, and her articles as well, and also the website.
You can read the magazine online. You don't even have to be in these towns. And you just pick which edition. Once you've put in this email address, you'll have your selection of the 3 editions. Then you pick which issue, and then you can read it online. You know, the arrow will turn the pages for you. It doesn't include all the photographs in the online edition, but...
Yes, and we will put a link to the magazine below so you guys could get in touch and find her in this Suburban Living magazine.
Let me know what you'd like to learn about our communities, because I enjoy doing interviews like Daniel does.
Yes, awesome.
And getting acquainted with people that way.
Right.
And sharing the information.
Thank you very much for being a part of the show, and we appreciate having you, and we look forward to having you again. And guys, please subscribe, like, and share these information on social media, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Look for more videos and more interviews like this. I want to thank you for joining us here at Writing Music and Film Society, and stay tuned and look forward for a lot more videos coming up in the future. Thank you, and bye. We'll talk to you again next time.